Thank you guys for having me. My name is Nolan. I'm an exercise specialist here at the Valley Health Lifestyles. I'm also a lifeguard, and I also coach the Master Swim program in the morning. So let's get started. This is a presentation about resistance training and how it's medicine and it's a holistic approach to lifelong health. So let's get started. So there's a common misconception. Oh, and by the way, if you have any questions, please leave them to the end and I'll answer all of them. Yeah, so introduction, there's a common misconception that resistance training is only for like bodybuilders and athletes, but it's not. It really is for everybody, and anybody can get started doing it with a little bit of help. There was a previous emphasis on aerobic training compared to resistance training. And the American College of Sports Medicine actually recommends resistance training 2 to 3 times per week. So what is resistance training? That's a good question. I'm glad I asked. So it's a modality of training that emphasizes muscle contraction as a response to resistance from an external force. So that external force could be like dumbbells, resistance bands, barbells, and even body weight. And even outside of that, like if you were to go swimming, that's resistance training because you have the resistance from the water. Or like if you were doing, like we have the row machine here, that could be resistance training because you're pulling against the force from the machine. So cardio versus resistance training, you might not know the difference. So let me break it down for you guys. Cardio is like a form of exercise that focuses on stressing the cardiovascular system and the heart. So, like jumping rope, running, the elliptical, biking, that would all be like a form of cardio. And then resistance training is a form of exercise that focuses on muscle contractions. And pretty much muscle contractions break down muscles and rebuilds them to be stronger through protein synthesis, which is why protein consumption is kind of stressed after a workout, because protein is what's going to help you build your muscles to be, big and strong. And just to let you guys know that certain forms of resistance training can be cardio. Like if you were to do resistance training with like lighter weights and higher reps, that could be a form of cardio. And here's like an example of like a resistance training program. So this is like a lower body program that you guys see here. You guys can see that right at the top. And we have the exercise order. So you start with squats, you do 3 sets of either 4 to 6, 8 to 10, or 12 to 15, depending on the weight that you do. 4 to 6 reps would be more focused on like strength and power. 8 to 10 focusing on actually building up muscle and like hypertrophy. And then 12 to 15 would be more so focused on cardio. And then you want to take about 1.5 minutes rest in between each set, just to allow your body to kind of reset and, be ready to do the next set of exercises. So we got squats, and then we got calf raises. Once again, 3 sets of varying reps depending on what your goal is. And then once again, you got to take at least 1.5 minutes rest. And then so that would be your first set. So you see 1A, 1B. That means that you would do those exercises together. And then we have deadlifts. Once again, 3 sets, 4 to 6, 8 to 10, 12 to 15, depending on your goals, and then 1.5 minutes rest. And then following deadlifts, you do weighted decline bench curl ups. Once again, same idea, 3 sets, and then you pick your reps depending on your goals. This is kind of like similar to what we would give you during our exercise prescription that we do here at Valley. So yeah, this is kind of like the same idea. So we're going to move on and talk about the benefits of resistance training. So we're going to get into the meat and potatoes here. So here's a list of a few of them, not all of them. I could go on forever about the benefits of resistance training, but these are the ones that we're going to cover today. So we're going to start with reversing muscle loss, then reducing body fat, recharging resting metabolism, facilitating physical function, resisting type 2 diabetes, improving cardiovascular health, increase bone mineral density, and improves mental health. So we're going to get into each one of those. And yeah, so let's get started. So reversing muscle loss. resistance training increases muscle mass in adults of all ages. So no matter your age, no matter your training experience, you can increase your muscle mass by, resistance training. And it doesn't take a lot, 2 to 3 non-consecutive days a week. So, it could be like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, if you want to get it done during the week, but it could also be like Monday, Thursday, Sunday, or Tuesday, whatever works for you. It doesn't have to be the same days each week. Life happens. As long as you get those 2 to 3 non-consecutive days in, you're going to be set. And it's also important that you do them on non-consecutive days, just so that, your body has a little bit of time in between each session to recover. And, you never want to push yourself too much, because if you push yourself too much, you're not going to be able to do as much as you want to do. And then within those 2 to 3 non-consecutive days, within those workouts, you want to do 12 to 20 exercise sets and target all major muscle groups. And then studies have shown that an increase of 1.4 kilograms of lean body mass following 3 months of consistent resistance training. So 1.4 kilograms is roughly, I don't know, I'm not even going to try to do the math, I'm sorry, but that's a lot of weight. That's a lot of weight to increase your muscle mass by. So, and then we have the use it or lose it principle. Pretty much, if you don't use your muscles, you're going to lose your muscles. So that's why being inactive, that's why you don't want to be inactive. You want to consistently use your muscles, or else you're going to lose them. Here on the right, we have a picture of what an active arm looks like compared to an inactive arm. You can see there's more definition in the shoulder as well as the actual arm. You can see the tricep in the back and the bicep in the front. You can see how it's more defined and a little bit wider than the inactive arm. Next, we have reducing body fat. So resistance training will assist in decreasing your body fat percentage. So resistance training will turn your fat into muscle. Muscle burns more calories at rest than fat does. So if you have more muscle on your body, you're going to burn more fat at rest. You're going to burn more calories at rest than if you have more fat on your body. So increasing your muscle mass increases your resting metabolic rate, which in your resting metabolic rate is how many calories you burn at rest. And then it also decreases abdominal fat, which in turn decreases your cholesterol, resting blood pressure, plasma glucose levels, chance of type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. So here on the right, we have another picture. The blue is the subcutaneous fat, which is the fat that forms outside of the abdominal wall. And that's going to be a little bit easier to get rid of than the visceral fat, which is in pink. And the visceral fat forms around the internal organs and can only be addressed through diet and exercise. So that's why we want to, be more active and decrease that fat in, inside of ourselves. But then you can also see here, the little sliver, that's the abdominal wall, and that's the muscle and tissue that separates the visceral and the subcutaneous fat. So the next one we have is recharging resting metabolism. So like I said before, increasing your muscle mass will increase resting metabolic rate because muscle burns more calories at rest than fat does. You burn more calories at rest because the body will constantly be using energy to build and replenish nutrients to the body, or build muscle and replenish nutrients to the body. You also improve insulin sensitivity, and regular resistance training can increase resting metabolic rate by 100 calories per day. And resting metabolic rate is something that we actually do here at Valley Health Lifestyles. If you go up to the fitness desk, you can get one of these little papers for the Sports Institute, and you get 25% off your first resting metabolic rate test. Next, we are going to focus on facilitating physical function. Aging, in general, will result in a decreased function in activities of daily life. So, activities of daily life include, gardening, walking, walking upstairs, whatever you like to do that requires a little bit of physical activity. Those things are going to, decrease as you get a little bit older, and I'm sure plenty of people can vouch for that. It gets harder as you get older. But with strength training, strength training can improve and increase longevity of activities of daily life. So, and that is proven because strength training can enhance movement control, functional ability, physical performance, and walking speed. Next, we're going to talk about resisting type 2 diabetes. So resistance training is an effective method of combating type 2 diabetes for middle-aged adults, pretty much because we're going to increase insulin sensitivity, which will decrease risk of type 2 diabetes. Decreasing abdominal fat will decrease the risk of type 2 diabetes, and increase in resistance training will cause a decrease in blood sugar. The American Diabetes Association recommends exercise of all major muscle groups 3 days a week and 8 to 10 reps at a high intensity. So that kind of goes back to the same thing the American College of Sports Medicine was saying, 2 to 3 days a week on non-consecutive days, 8 to 10 reps at a high intensity. Yeah. Next, we're going to talk about improving cardiovascular health. So even though that cardio is also an effective method of improving cardiovascular health, so is resistance training. And it has been shown to have similar effects on the body that aerobic training has, such as improving body composition, increased fat burning, decreased resting blood pressure, and improving glycemic control. But like I said before, if you decide to do your resistance training reps in the range of around 12 to 15, you can even go a little bit above 15 as well. Those are the workouts that are going to focus on cardiovascular health. Whereas if you do less reps, in the 4 to 6 or 8 to 10 range, those are going to focus more on power and hypertrophy. Next, we're going to talk about increasing bone mineral density. So individuals that don't partake in resistance training are expected to lose 1 to 3% of bone mineral density every year of life. Resistance training increases bone mineral density more than aerobic exercise because resistance training places physical stress on the bones, therefore causing them to become stronger. Whereas if you do aerobic exercise, you're not really stressing the muscles or the bones as much, and they will become a little bit weaker. So here on the right, this is an example of 2 bones. The bone on the right is an unhealthy bone. It has osteoporosis. It has a lot of bigger holes in the bone, which is going to cause them to break a little bit easier. Whereas the healthy bone has much smaller holes in it, which is going to cause it to be more compact and much stronger, and it's going to be much more durable. It's going to be a more durable bone. Next, we're going to talk about mental health. So resistance training has been shown to improve mental health by decreasing fatigue, anxiety, and depression. It increases self-esteem and cognitive ability. And then it also alleviates lower back pain, fibromyalgia, and osteoarthritis. And it's also proven to increase health-related quality of life in older individuals. So, if you can find, like a boot camp that you can do here at Valley, or it doesn't even have to be at Valley, find a group of people that, share similar goals, want to accomplish similar things. They like exercising the same way as you do. If you can find that community of people, I highly recommend that, just because, it's important to have that group of people, almost like a support group. They keep you on track. And it also just makes it easier to go out and exercise if you have that group of people holding you accountable. So that's it. We're going to recap. So resistance training is for everybody and not just a select population of people. There are several benefits of resistance training that increase longevity of good health. When you come to Valley, we have the exercise specialists here, like me. And then, anybody you see on the floor behind the desk, don't be afraid to ask us questions. We're not going to think it's silly. We're actually going to we'll be happy to answer your questions, because not everybody comes around and, is willing to put themselves on the spot and admit that, they might not always know what they're doing. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask us questions. And lastly, exercise is medicine. It's very, get out there. It's very holistic. And, it's a good way to spend your time. yeah, I mean, that's about it. So if you guys have any questions, call them out or leave them in the chat. I'll take a look at them right now. But that's it. Thank you guys.
Hi, Nolan. There is a question in the chat.
Okay. Besides resistance training, what else helps bone mineral density? That's a good question. Resistance training is definitely the best way to increase your bone mineral density. You can definitely do some forms of cardio, will definitely help with your bone mineral density. Anything that's, medium impact would be good for you guys. Yeah. Can we get a copy of a typical routine? I mean, every routine is going to be different for everybody. If you want your own personal routine, you can definitely stop by the fitness desk and sign up for an assessment. And we'll get your assessment done, and we'll also give you your own personalized exercise prescription. Because, everybody has their own goals, everybody has their own limitations. So it's hard to give just one typical routine. Yeah, no problem. Can you do ab work every day? Yeah, why not? I mean, if you want to do, if you want to wake up, do like a little ab routine, why not? But I do recommend, maybe you could do it every day, maybe do different things every day. So maybe one day do leg lifts and then another day do crunches. Definitely switch it up. Try to switch it up every day. Because, you have your upper abs and your lower abs. So maybe one day do mostly upper abs and then another day do lower abs.
What about yoga? You said that it's good to put pressure on the bones to build bone density. And what do you think about yoga as an exercise? I know it's not resistance training, but what are some of the benefits of it?
Yeah, I think yoga is great because, like you said, when you do yoga, not only are you like putting stress on your bones, but you're also making like your muscles more flexible. And you're making yourself, more flexible, and that's something that can also attribute to increasing longevity and doing your activities of daily life. So yoga is definitely great because it'll make you stronger. It'll also make you more flexible. In a workout sample, do you recommend 1.5 minutes rest between each set of reps or only between each exercise set? That's a really good question. I would say between each exercise set. So I'm actually going to go back and show you guys the little blurb that I gave you guys here. So I would say that if you're, let's see, we have the squats and the calf raises together. I would say take about 30 seconds in between the squats and the calf raises since they're supersetted together. And then once you finish the calf raises, before you go back to the squats, that's when you should probably take a minute and a half of rest. That was a good question, Bill. Thank you. All right. Any other questions?
How long have you been at Valley, Nolan? Are you fairly new?
I've been at Valley for 3 years. For 2.5 of those years, I was a lifeguard, lifeguarding, doing swim lessons. And then just back in February, I started as an exercise specialist.
Okay, great. So if anybody has any questions, they should visit the exercise desk and someone will develop a program for them.
Yeah, so pretty much the way it works is you come to the desk and we sign you up for 2 appointments. The first appointment is going to be a fitness assessment where we kind of do baseline measurements. We do like your heart rate, your blood pressure, your oxygen saturation. And then we'll move into like the fitness assessment. So we'll do a cardio test, and then we'll do some muscle tests. Usually they're all on machines. And then we'll do like a balance and a flexibility test. And then based on those results and then your own personal goals, that's what we take into consideration for your exercise prescription. And that would be the second appointment that you come in for. And pretty much the exercise prescription is something that we give to you and we just kind of walk you through it on the first time, and then you're on your own. But then you should come in about every 3 months to get a new one. Because, after 3 months, your body is probably used to that program. You probably need a little bit something a little bit harder and you need to progress. Because if you just keep doing the same thing every day, your body's going to get used to the same thing every day, and then it's just going to plateau. What is more effective, free weights or machines? It all depends on the person. I like to start people off with their first exercise prescription with machines and like the cable machines and some resistance bands, just because most people are kind of new to it and need to actually feel the muscles that they're using on the machine before they move into doing free weights. Do you burn more calories with resistance training or cardio? I believe that you burn more calories with resistance training compared to steady state cardio, which is what most people do. If you're doing more high intensity interval training cardio, you'll probably burn about the same as resistance training, but resistance training compared to steady state cardio, you're going to burn more calories doing resistance training. And then, like I said, with resistance training, you're also increasing your muscle mass compared to your fat mass. So just by doing that, you're going to increase your resting metabolic rate and burn more calories on a daily basis.
Yeah, that was a question I got in one of the support groups. Was when they do the RMR and it determines what your metabolic rate is, do you then work with that particular person on how to increase your metabolism?
Yeah, but not specifically. I mean, we don't target like specifically your resting metabolic rate, but through everything that we like do as far as giving or writing an exercise prescription, it's all based on trying to make that person more fit, and one of the end results will be increasing resting metabolic rate, but that's not really what we're targeting.
So
But
how does
that will be an outcome.
How does one increase their metabolism? If you got a sluggish metabolism, how do you increase that?
Resistance training. You can do it through resistance training. You can also do it through certain foods will increase your metabolic rate. Caffeine increases your metabolic rate. Now, I'm not saying go out and drink 10 cups of coffee and expect yourself to burn 100 more calories a day. But it is one of the effects of caffeine is your body starts working a little bit harder, so you are going to burn more calories